Welcome to Between X and Z with Wallace and Dozer. This is obstacle number 13, spirituality after 30. Always we're on Twitter, Instagram, iTunes, YouTube even. You can just search Between X and Z. Follow us, rate us, give us comments. Tell us what you want to hear, tell us what you hate. Just hit us up. Let's get it going. Welcome to the show. I'm Wallace.
And I am Dozer.
Feels good.
It does.
Got spring coming. Feels, how would I put this? You know, for those of you that don't live in seasons, it's funny when you meet people in California that are from the East Coast and they always complain about, I just miss the seasons. I'm like, well, then move back.
Yeah.
You don't. You just fucking hate the East Coast, and now you're in the West Coast and you'll never move back.
The East Coast doesn't really have seasons. It's shit.
Upstate New York has amazing fall. I've never seen something as pretty as I saw driving to Lake Placid.
I lived in upstate New York.
Yeah.
That was where I was born, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it does have a good fall. But
other than that,
it's got a very short summer and then what you call hell. Yeah. Even though it's cold, it's hell.
That's what so where we're at in the middle with this kind of Mountain West, it's amazing because you have these seasons and you know, where I'm going with this is it is spiritual. This is what I look at nature is when I look at these seasons, when I go hiking in the mountains, when I see the snow, I take my dog out with my lady at 7 a.m. No one's at the park near our house now, and there's snow dripping from the trees and you hear it, and it's this beautiful serenity of quiet, and like that's a fucking season versus Los Angeles or even NorCal. It's always crowded. There's always a human around you. It's hard to get away unless you have a ton of money and you're secluded and you're gated or whatever it may be. And it is a spiritual sense that I had this morning just by waking up and going outside and seeing the change of this beautiful sunshine, but then this crazy gnarly snow we had, the last 2 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, spiritual. Well, I think you see how powerful, Colorado can be a very powerful place, spiritual, with nature.
Yeah.
Nature, it's a perfect blend of everything. Whereas, don't get me wrong, man. I lived in San Diego for a while, and I thought San Diego is beautiful. I don't want to use the word spirituality just off of nature, but I
would agree.
Well, yeah, but I think it kind of leads me to something. Is I think your mind is a lot of spirituality. If that makes some sort of sense in some ways.
What do you mean? Like,
well. Living on the East Coast, and I'm not saying people on the East Coast aren't spiritual either. I'm just saying
they're a little more outspoken.
Well, I think they're, serenity is something that comes from a lot of environment, and that is something. East Coast, there's some beautiful times, but there's some real shitty times too, man. And
do you attribute a ton of people in more of a dense kind of area to that, the hell? Because if you think about it, here's like,
but for who?
I think for
because some people love it. Some people
the
only place
slickers or whatever.
Some people the only place
city
they feel
dwellers.
Natural is a city.
Look at the people in New York. That's as Jason Silva said. It's actually conquering nature. Like nature still pops its way up into other cities. New York has literally touched nature down, and they kept a sliver of it.
But see, that's what I think. That's what I think is kind of amazing. Is obviously Colorado does it for you and I. Spirituality is a big word, but I'm just saying serenity, kind of peace, the nature. Some people, it's the ocean and a wave and people around, and then some people, it's the middle of nowhere, and then some people is a large city where there's hustle and there's bustle and you hear, horns.
Well, you know what they call that, and which is amazing, and I think what I experienced this morning was, like you go into the jungle. And all the research I've done on, ceremonies and everything that people do in Peru and the Andes Mountains, whatever plant ceremony you're doing, you have to do a cleanse. You do a Western diet cleanse normally. I've had people that have gone there and done ceremonies that have said that's bullshit. Some people say that you have to do it, but you're cleansing yourself of a lot of things. But I think the idea is to also meditatively cleanse yourself from this what they call unnatural energy, which are the cars and the noise and I saw that with elephants in the Thailand place I went to this December. They had to exclude certain animals that had so much unnatural energy doing walking the streets, begging for money, doing circuses and the flashbulb lights and the noises and the gunshots and all that shit. They're terrified of that shit. So they have to keep them in this forest very far away from this road. And if a car goes down, they start moving the opposite way because it was so overbearing. And I think as humans, we have that. Like Paris, when I lived in Paris, France, that's the most I've ever been homesick of nature. If that sounds crazy. And that's the spirituality thing that I agree with nature, because there was an awesome park that many people don't know about in Paris, and it has a mini waterfall. And it's in the northeast part, I'll say, actually. And that's it. Like, I'd go there almost every day and read and write, and there was some other people that would do it, and it was the only place you could not have to hear the fucking ambulances and the people yelling and the metro and all this shit, and it was very, very awesome.
Yeah. So, again, what are we talking about? The topic is, spirituality, kind of, what is it? How does it morph into the age we are in, right?
When you,
when you're climbing that hill, Well, when life is uncertain and it's real hard to even focus on anything besides present problems, besides
your bills or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Modern day issues.
And I think that's no one has that answer. I think that's the challenge, because that's kind of what I was saying before is, spirituality is subjective.
Yeah.
It's in the eye of the beholder. On a lot of levels, because, for example, those, some people, they don't get nature sick, and it's not like they're better or worse. It's just the way they are. Yeah. It's those feelings. And I believe, and I don't know the scientific behavior behind it, but I think we're all about experiences. I think from early age on, we all morph into our own experiences. That's why some people pick up certain problems. Some people pick up certain habits. Some people are naturally good at certain things.
Sure.
And I think spirituality in some way is like that too. And
I can see that for sure.
What makes you comfortable, at peace, present, understanding are things that are very subjective, which is, if you look at religion, is exactly why we cannot get all together. There's 1,000 other reasons, but that's one of the biggest reasons, is because what makes me happy, doesn't make someone else happy, and doesn't make this person happy. And then not only in a lot of religions, it's you have to do what makes me happy, and then vice versa. That's how they think, and it just turns into a clash chaos. So, I think that's how I look at things. And one of the things for me to try to get a spiritual journey was, what do I really like? What do I like that is not an external reference? And what I mean by that is...
When did you ask yourself this?
Recently. Fairly recently. It was something I never...
A year, 2 years?
2 to 3 years.
Was there a moment that kind of switched it? Like, for me, it was a medical issue.
Yeah.
That changed a lot of my thinking.
I had a rough time in my life.
Okay.
Where I wasn't dealing with a lot of the things that just bothered me from the past, or past mistakes, or things from childhood. Nothing catastrophic, but I think again, that's in the eye of the beholder.
Do you think the military put that on hold because you had your own life to worry about?
Well, I think
of goings abroad.
That's some deep shit that has nothing to do with real spirituality, but it's important. It's important shit, because it's very important. And I'm sure not everyone feels this way, but for me, it's funny you bring up that. I think I got into the military a lot of reasons to get out of things that I didn't want to deal with, because the military is real good at that. So any sort of systematic thing is real good at that. Why? Because the military morphs your behavior. Ooh. It conforms you to a behavior, and then there's social norms in the world, and then there's social norms within the military.
I've seen a lot, yeah.
And you might not be very good at social norms in the world. And I'm not saying that was really necessarily my problem. You might not want to deal with certain things in the world. But in this world, these are the things. All you have to do is check those boxes of these things that you did or you can do. And a lot of them is ego-driven. How tough are you? How strong are you?
Best
how physically
marksman.
Fit are you? Yeah. What are you good at? Are you a good Marine, soldier, sailor, whatever you are?
The hierarchy serves a purpose, in my opinion, in those areas. But that almost reminds me of religion, what you just brought up. Like, you go to these places and you have to to get your spirituality out of it, you have to conform to what they're doing. And idealism, right? That's very similar
what is that word?
Ideology?
Ideology, yeah, geez.
But in a sense, it's a good thing because we still have the best one in the world. We're still the best place to live in the world.
Well, I mean, ideologies are good and bad.
Yeah.
And that is the interesting, because I don't regret any of the time I had in the military.
Mm-hmm.
But if I continued for 20 years, probably I would have never have dealt with the things that I dealt with. And again, some big, some small. Character defects.
But once again,
wounds,
do you think you put it
problems
on hold? Because I have a friend that went abroad, I'll say, and came back very different, and came back a little more Christian almost. And it was very, very interesting to me because he never was Christian before, and came back and actually had prayer at dinner. And I wonder if I don't know what happened over there. I never asked, but being in a situation of war, it's a fucking something beyond I can't.
But I've
fathom
never.
it.
I've said this a few times. I'm the war hero.
Yeah.
Never did anything crazy.
More than me.
Well, but yes, I went to a dangerous country.
That's a very dangerous place, man.
But man, you that's another whole talk about a hierarchy, man. There's guys that did a ton of shit and they deserve
like the
all those praise.
That are gnarly.
I mean, that's even another.
That
is like
he's on another level.
That's a 0.5% of that population.
You said it perfect. He's wired different.
But and not to get into PTSD, but I've heard someone say this once, and I thought it was a really good analogy, just kind of about humans and spirituality too. Yeah. You can almost tie it into spirituality.
Absolutely.
100 people, let's just say they get into a horrific car accident. 20 to 30 of those people are going to struggle from post-traumatic stress.
My mom's one of them.
Yeah, so 20 to 30.
She hydroplaned and never can drive in the rain.
No, it doesn't say that every one of those people doesn't struggle with something. But 20 to 30 of them are going to have severe problems, whether it's picking up addiction, not dealing with things, or struggling, mental problems. And why is that? This is what this psychologist was saying. Why is that? It's because they don't have that good support system, that good basis. Now, it doesn't mean that the other 70 to 80 aren't struggling. Mm-hmm. It just means that they're not losing kind of their hinges on some level.
Yeah.
So I think that might be kind of what you're talking about with your buddy is, we've had this religious topic thing come up before. Mm-hmm. And now we're kind of encompassing it with spirituality, but I think religion is important because
huge.
A lot of people shit on religion, and I for one don't. I shit on the silliness of religion. I think there's silliness everywhere. It's also silly to say you understand everything about the universe. That's really silly.
I think it's silly that I was listening to, I don't know where I got it, and you maybe can correct me, but somebody said that they now have gluten-free bread when they serve the red wine of Christ, the body of Christ. They have gluten-free bread. I'm sorry.
No, but
that's funny. That's funny to laugh at. But in reality, they're gathering on Sunday. They're getting some higher presence, and they're feeling spiritual. The interesting thing about that kind of spirituality and being before you're starting to climb the hill is I think you're still morphing and you're still changing. And for me, it was all about picking up a book. I picked up, I've talked about this on the podcast before, but Jack Kerouac was an awesome author, unfortunately an alcoholic, which a lot of artists and authors have their vices. And if you took that away, would they be as good as they were? I don't know. Probably not.
Just like heroin and
Chris
music.
Farley, the huge conundrum that people always say is the Chris Farley syndrome. Would he have been as good as he was without cocaine? Probably not.
Or without his problems.
There you go.
I mean, comedians, from what I hear, struggle with that same thing
Chris
too.
Rock.
That's why they look at things that are funny.
Yeah,
because they have these demons kind of inside.
They're intertwined in a weird way. But, he morphed a lot. And then kind of the later in his life, Kerouac got out of Buddhism and went back to his Catholicism, which was he was French Canadian, so it was deeply rooted in his body. Towards the end of his life, you refound that. So, is it this weird part of your hill climb where you have this middle life, so to speak, and you are trying to find other spirituality after 30? You know what I mean? Why do you change? Is it because you're waking up and you want to taste other things at the ice cream shop?
Well, you know what I don't like about spirituality or religion I guess not so much spirituality, but it is about religion.
Yeah.
Absolutes. I can't.
Like a guarantee to get into heaven.
No, not
what do you
not
mean
stuff
by
like that. I think that's human. I think that's human behavior, and it's wishful thinking. It's a way to for me to deal, not for me, but for people to deal with, stressful situations.
It's like it's a formula that's already laid out. Like I look at movies like now as like a guarantee because certain movie theaters you can now pick your seats. Everything's now about picking your seats. And I hate going back to Southwest because it's always the hustle and bustle to get back, find you another seat.
Yeah.
Religion, same thing. If it's guaranteed, now you don't have to worry. Like, oh, I just got to do this.
I think it's a human. It's a human trying to understand something that is far more complex than anything they can understand.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it like that. See, people that are very like odd with religion, just like the body of Christ or the blood of Christ,
gluten free.
Well, but you know what? I honestly though, it doesn't bother me. Some people get addicted, or not addicted, but they get wrapped up in CrossFit.
That's a huge.
That's crazy too. They get wrapped up in yoga. They get wrapped up in eating healthy or jiu-jitsu. So it's like those are one of the things that I used to. And by the way, I never thought about this. Like 2 to 3 years ago, you asked me when that changed for me.
Yeah,
I had some problems, dealt with them, dealing with them every day. And I think that that's the thing I don't like about religion per se, is there's that absolute understanding. But I also looked at I wouldn't call myself religious, but when I wasn't even trying to understand spirituality, it was just Dozer doing his thing, living his life, and that's how you work.
But when you were living your life though, did you even dabble in anything, or were you just like I said? I feel like
I thought it was horse shit, to be honest with you, all of it.
But did you even have time to like sit down and think about it? Because you were.
I guess I had time. Time would be an excuse.
You have leave and stuff, and you have your.
Of course, I mean you have time all the time, and I used to hate in the military. They during ceremonies and stuff, they say let us pray, and I used to always just kind of hate that.
They do that everywhere.
Well,
right?
I used to just hate that, and
presidential.
Oh yeah, I mean because the country is a
But why? I thought it was separate. Church and state was separate.
But it's still founded on
so weird.
I think what church and state is, and someone that's understands this the separation of church and state, I think, is more the state or the government shouldn't be influenced, or they shouldn't be together. And I don't think they are. I think people get that just because the people that are.
Well, look at Mike Pence's background though. The full abortion thing and like
absolutely, but there's a lot of people that
rooted.
There's a lot of people that are against abortion.
Yeah,
that are not deeply religious, and
it turns out sometimes most likely they're.
I think that's a cognitive bias on ours, just on a general people.
Yeah,
I think we look at people like in religious things, and then say, oh well, see, he's voted well. There's also thousands of other people that don't believe in abortion, and it has nothing to do. Millions of other people that don't believe in abortion. That has nothing to do with religious things.
Well, first of all, if they're male, I'd like to exclude them because it's not their body. You know what I mean? I just think excluded right away. That's the funny part. Is why is a male even in there? It's talking about spirituality. Where are they getting this from? You know what I mean? What the fuck do they even bother for it? Like. Did they wake up and I saw an interview with Sean Spence. They asked him about his SNL, parodies, and he just fucking responded like a little fucking fundamentalist guy and was like,
Sean Spicer, you mean?
Yeah, whatever. What did I say? Sean Smith?
Sean Pence.
Sean Pence. They all look the same. They're white.
My
and
initial
old.
thought was Sean Penn, the cigarette smoking loser.
No, he looks cool. He was cool in fucking the Ben Stiller movie.
All I've heard though is he's not a cool guy. I've heard
he seems like that.
But anyway.
But so he just goes. Oh, he's really short, first of all. And then the guy goes, oh, what do you think about the SNL about you? He goes, you know what? Today I woke up and I went to church with my family, and now we're doing the Easter egg hunt. And, I'm wearing the tie for Easter, and it's Easter. And I'm just like, dude, are you a fucking robot?
See, that's the thing.
That's weird.
He's hiding. I don't know.
He's doing his job.
But you're hiding behind a religion.
But why, though? Like, some people really get a lot out of spirituality, like Christianity. Look at fucking your guy, Peterson, who's awesome. He's marrying that with certain kind of concepts.
I've said this.
That's brilliant.
I'm definitely, I guess, a Christian, if you asked in that definition, because it falls more in line. Now, I don't believe every single thing. I believe in evolution.
Would you tattoo a cross on you? Would you have it? Like
no, but I don't.
That means so much.
But I don't think it's odd that people do that. I think, I really and like the abortion thing.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I think this happens with religion or without religion.
It does, for sure.
And that's the thing that always kind of, like, I find myself, ever since I've taken a path of spirituality, kind of looking at everyone's kind of thing and going, oh, it's not that crazy.
But see, there you go, right there. It's almost like these should be two categories, especially when you look at fundamentalists, whatever, or just even a lazy Catholic person, or even just a Christian person that's interested. When you say spirituality, you almost think like it's a different category of New Age. Spirituality could be fucking anything.
But you know what? It really shouldn't be, because to me, this is the thing I found. And again, I'm no fucking whatever the hell theologist,
right? Yeah.
But the interesting thing that I found is if you actually look at the teachings of any religion, and what I have found is that looking at the teachings of, let's just, Christian, Jesus Christ.
Sure.
There's a lot of shit in there that is a weird, interpreted, man-made story. Okay, Adam and Eve, all that stuff. I mean, it is, like...
Sounds like a good time.
But a lot of it is... I think this is Jordan Peterson's thing, and he's way too smart for me to interpret him, but this is what I've understood out of it. There's some human truth in there as well.
Yeah.
Treat other people nice.
Sure.
Treat people how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
love before you hate. And and then certain
we had
rules,
before, right?
But what happens?
Social norms.
But what happens is, but that's the thing. Like, everyone says, well, these are just social norms. But where do they come from? Well, opposite
Years
people
of
with
practice. All right, we should not kill people anymore.
But that's not true, though.
Why is that?
Because we still kill people.
Well, because that can go back to a lot of different things. Like, is it the
because
people kill people, not the guns and all that stuff? Then
I think
mental
people
health
kill
coming
people.
out,
I don't think guns kill people.
PTSD and all these different things that are
But
starting
the
to
thing
bloom.
is what's interesting to me is, religion has killed a lot of people.
More than anything ever combined ever.
And the thing that I think, though, is the problem is that's people. People are like, here's the thing. I just said I identify more with Christianity than I do anything else.
Yeah.
Someone could identify with Buddhism. Someone could identify with Islam.
Yeah.
Someone could identify with whatever other religion. To me, the problem is a few things. The interpretation of religion.
So that goes back to the person, though, right? Like their perception.
Exactly. But what we do as a society is we sit there and say, oh, well, Islam is bad. Oh, Buddhism is bad. Well, Buddhists don't really ever have a bad rep. But, because it's really more of a philosophy than it is. More of a philosophy than it is a religion. But, like, okay, Christianity's bad because they don't believe in abortion. They don't believe in gay rights. No. Islam, look at what ISIS is.
Well, look what they do to women.
But look at what ISIS is.
Yeah.
A lot of the Quran is a very good. There's truth in there. I mean, and I'm certainly no Quran expert, but I could tell you, when I went, to Middle Eastern countries, there are a hell of a lot of good people, man.
Oh yeah.
And the problem is it's this understanding. Imagine this profound thing that you're handed. Bible, Quran, whatever it is for whatever religion, and there's thousands of religions, and then being told, okay, this is the truth, and then say, okay, you have to practice and continue to push on other people these truths. So you interpret things very differently than other people.
So when they're talking to you, this is where I go back to my kind of like time scale. It's like, I've heard an awful quote by, like, I want to say it's a Christian church, unfortunately, or Catholic, could be one of them. Probably Catholics after the quote. Is you give me a child, like, in his first 4 years or whatever, then I'll have him for life. Like, in a sense, it's a brainwashing kind of quote that, you build this, you fucking plant the seed. And, spirituality is very unique because, when I do work in a college setting, and even being in college twice myself, I do realize that people start shedding those conditioned kind of thoughts and beliefs in college. And Bill Hicks has an awesome, bit on Christianity and fundamentalist Christians, and he talked about, like, it's just, I think if you guys look up Gifts of Forgiveness on YouTube, you'll find a really good thing from Bill Hicks. That he talks about doing, like, psilocybin in a field, and it's amazing because he just talks about. I found an extended audio one day, but the one online shortens a bit, but he ends with, like, saying, "These are just what your parents taught you, and that's it. Once you kind of, like, break out of that condition, you can at least, how do you call it? You can at least find what works for you. the spirituality. So is it that like right around when you fully develop at 28, start to climb the hill at 30? Is that when you really start thinking about what you want?
But that I think the thing I don't agree per se is that's to say that people that are 28 to on that are religious in the aspect, even fundamentalists, because I think that's also a problem too. And fundamentalism is not good in no matter what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And it just so happens, if you're talking about spirituality and why we're here and why we do things, you're talking about the biggest thing
ever.
Ever.
That nobody knows ever.
If there's one answer you could get that really could change your life, it isn't necessarily how to make money. It's what do you believe?
You got to ask Tony Robbins.
I'm going to tell you.
What is his new book?
The Money Secrets. Easy banana hands.
But he's got his fucking investments in everybody's ever worked with. It's kind of weird.
But you know what? Like that's what I'm saying is like that is a huge solve.
And why? I mean,
and yet we
fall into that.
But we judge people for trying to solve it in sometimes what seems to be silly ways.
Yeah.
But if you don't. To me, what I've been trying to do is extract, and it seems like the only thing, maybe because just of, again, back to experiences. My experience is only with Christianity. I've had a little bit of experience with Islam just from really going to countries.
Environments, yeah.
And from what I know about the Quran, I'm not going to say on air, but there are some real crazy things, but there's some crazy stuff in the Bible too. Yeah. But what is the Bible is people's interpretation of things that they could not understand, but there is some testimonials in there that to me, and I think this is what Jordan Peterson's saying, is they are true. They're as true today as they were back then. Yeah, maybe Adam and Eve didn't create the world and talk to a snake. That's a story. That's a metaphor. Yeah. But there are some things back then that are really shocking to me in every religion. Because a lot of them are talking about the same damn thing that are true today as they were back then. And that, to me, is enough to, like, hey, that's probably a pretty good basis of understanding. Maybe I should learn that. It's almost like, maybe I should highlight that. Now, maybe I should take the bullshit out of Adam and Eve.
But what about the perception of the time? Like, don't you think... I really want to read Danny Bellelli's Make Your Own Religion book, and he did that one before. It was awesome. Not Afraid. If anybody ever picks that up, it's fucking sweet. He's a guy that's studied religion for so many years, teaches it, higher ed, very, very established guy. And, Making Your Own Religion is a funny title because it's almost like what you just talked about, where you extract certain things and... It could be like what we're not going to get into, but like dieting. It doesn't always have to be one solid, here's everybody that's a strict paleo guy. Then you can extract, and if you make your own diet, in a sense, it's just like religion and spirituality.
Yeah.
But why does that always happen towards like higher ed and kind of educated people? Why do we debate it more than the people that just follow somebody? Like go down to Colorado Springs and go to those fucking horrible places that are, what are those places called? Like the big church down there, the mega churches. I've never heard of that expression ever. Until I moved out here, and this is where the pastors get millions and millions of dollars, and they end up like fucking black prostitutes or something. These are the horrible people. But why is it that the I don't want to say uneducated, but the people that aren't studying it enough never really talk about it or question it, versus the people that do study?
I'll tell you though, and
why?
I used to have that same thought. I used to walk into a church just for whatever occasion.
Yeah.
And I used to think I'm the smartest guy in this room.
Did you?
I really did. And that changed.
Wolf in sheepskin.
But that changed a lot for me.
When?
Like I said, 2 to 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And more closer to the 2. And now it's not, because the thing is I've seen people that are very smart, much smarter than me.
Yeah. That
believe in something. But what always used to be the disconnect for me is I used to say this all the time, and my wife could be, a testament to that. I used to say, if he says 1% of something that's complete and utter bullshit to me, I don't want to listen to the rest of the 99.
Yeah.
But see, I think that was more of me trying to solve something that is unsolvable. Because I'll say this about atheists. Those are some of the smartest people in the world. Yet I find atheism to be the dumbest. I mean, it's as dumb as any of the dumb shit you're talking about religion.
What about, why do you correlate any scientists, like say Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Well, I don't think Neil deGrasse Tyson is an atheist. Like, I don't think he believes in God, but I don't think, sounds like a contradiction, but I'm talking about Neil deGrasse Tyson is a scientist. He goes off of facts. I've heard him a few times, and he dodges that question. He only says, I know what I know.
Who's the
I know what I could
physicist
possibly
that
know.
was just on Rogan, the guy from Arizona, or he lives in Arizona.
Oh, Lawrence Krauss.
Cool guy, and
Very cool
interesting.
guy.
But his concept that it was so fucking interesting about spirituality is he was almost like an atheist for scientists, where he was like completely disregarding anything religion, saying that religion at the time and place needed to be, but now we're way past that. Just like your tribal theory, where we're not in tribes anymore, so we don't need religion anymore. We need more science. We need facts. We need to think. Discover shit.
But you know where I think that's kind of false? Is it's denying any of the positive and only focusing on the negative.
That's why Rogan was pretty good at interviewing him, because he kept him.
And again, Lawrence Krauss is awesome.
Back.
I thought he was that
shit.
other guy from I remember you said, "Hey, he's on," and I'm like, "Oh, he's that crazy nutbag," because he looks
like the aliens,
the aliens guy,
ancient aliens.
So you knew who I was talking about, man.
Yeah.
Okay, because I thought he looks a little like him, and I thought,
This
I don't want
guy's
to listen
like
to that guy.
5'5" and a genius.
No, but dude, look at what the hell's his name? My God, my brain's not functioning.
Duncan Trussell.
No. Sam Harris.
Yeah,
very smart man. Almost too smart.
And he's tried
levels.
a lot of psychedelics, and he does martial arts.
But
he does everything that everyone else does.
He is very opposed to religion. Richard Dawkins opposed to religion.
Yeah.
And
why though? Why in this day and age? Maybe it's just. I feel like once you get older, that's the weird thing to me, is like you can dibble dabble, but then once you hit that 30 plus and you start going in one direction,
I kind of think it's the opposite.
You think we revert?
I think unless you were born into some sort of
which a
religion,
lot of people were.
Which a lot of people were. I wasn't. Which is where I was this drastically opposed to any of it. And again, I do think a lot of it's silly, but I think religion is okay as long as it's not harmful.
Yeah.
As long as it's not a harmful thing or pushing thing. Like, one of the things that irritates me, and I've gone to a lot of churches. I've even talked to priests about this, almost interviewing them, asking what they wanted. Not like that. I didn't mean that in a negative way. I'm saying, like, what do you believe more? Yeah. Like, tell me what your thought is on this. Besides what you're telling and just preaching, what do you actually think? Like, and I'm not saying, I didn't say that in like a trying to, gotcha. You don't believe that. I said it in more of like, okay, stop. I don't want to know the direct Bible term. How do you rationalize? Like, what's your
don't
thought?
Fucking repeat the Bible. Tell me
what is your
reason.
interpretation of it? Yeah. What made you devote your life to this?
It's weird, man. I have a friend who's still traveling the world, and meeting him in Thailand was interesting because we talked about the monks. I don't know if I talked about this yet on the cast, but he is very desensitized to monks now, and I started seeing the same thing because monks are supposed to represent this like holy kind of like discipline, and listening to what's his name, Dennis McKenna and Rogan's cast recently made me laugh because Rogan, I guess he had some guy that is a super high end tech dude that went to Asia to be a monk and then does this like gnarly thing that releases the DMT through the, I don't know if you remember that part of it. It's
like a little bit
computerized program. But he laughed. He goes, "Do it. Don't tell me you have to wear a fucking orange thing for that. Like, why can't you just wear a T-shirt, bro?"
Yeah, but he's like, it's much more easier to do that.
Yeah. But it's funny because like I started seeing people. I didn't realize monkhood. You needed to. You have to be a monk 3 times in your life in Buddhist countries. So, kids, you see little baby monks, 12, 10 years old, and then you see like middle-aged monks, and then you see older monks. And so they're doing their duty of their Buddhist country and Buddhist philosophy, religion now actually, but. When you see them like kind of sneaking cigarettes or getting hit on and taking pictures, it's almost started desensitizing that.
Let me ask why.
Where you were, like, why is it desensitized?
Yeah,
because you're supposed to have this. How do you call it? You just use the word absolute. Kind of like these are the monks that are in this, the holiest part of being. You're a male.
That's what interests me.
What part?
They're human beings.
But look at the priests that dedicate their whole life.
but
the priests and stuff. Like they're humans too, but they're not married, right?
But man, if you dove deep into that rabbit hole,
look at the ones that fuck kids, right?
Yeah. I mean, and that doesn't mean every priest is bad. There are a lot of good priests, but dude, I mean, I think that's part of the craziness. Is they're expected to be this thing.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, is it going back to the spirituality? Is nature the one that still overcomes everything? Because you're still a man. You're still a fucking testosterone flying at certain points. But then priests are normally older when all those desires are gone. And Buddhists, same thing. You're supposed to get rid of all your desires, and you don't want to be with anybody. You're just by yourself. And
have you ever dealt with any stoic behavior?
Stoic?
Like, yeah.
Explain.
It's like Roman stuff, like like Marcus Aurelius.
No.
Ryan Holiday has a great book called "Ego is the Enemy."
I've heard of that. I think you dropped this.
It's a great book, man. And I mean, if you're ever going through like struggle within, I wouldn't say really necessarily personal, although it probably could. More like business or career oriented.
Yeah.
It's a
life coach.
Yeah, no, it's really good. But he's not being.
That's just his info. He puts it out there and it's yours.
He shows you in history. Cool. Yeah, it's not a self-help bullshit book.
Yeah, oh, God, yeah.
I mean, it tells you, like, listen, these are the paths you can take. And he gives a lot of examples. The one is the rise, and then kind of it's when you're there, and then it's the fall. So after something bad happens, when you're in, like, the best prime or before you're rising. And it talks about a lot of the egotistical things that go in there. But it's about stoic behavior, and again, I'm going to butcher this. We say that a lot in this cast, but what I understand about stoic behavior is a lot about being reserved. And pleasure is good, but be very weary of pleasure. Be very weary of what you're putting your time to. Like I got this thing called the Daily Stoic, and it's by Ryan Holiday again. It's almost like they call it a daily meditation.
Yeah,
but it's just a page you read.
Okay.
You know, very similar to like something that people would get like what are those, like Jesus Calling books, or you ever heard of them?
Nope.
well, I mean, I've heard of them. They're just these books that basically, you know, it's like, okay, today's, April 30th.
This is the calendar, like a joke of the day, word of the day, whatever.
Yes, but it's
there's a Taoist one.
This is
yeah.
And so every religion or kind of thought process has these, and this is a Stoic thing. And on tax day, it's a very interesting one. Because it talks about, you're upset that you're having to pay taxes or whatever, and the real, you should focus on the real taxes of life. It's the worry, it's the stress, it's the pleasures that aren't really going to be there and grab you and be for you. So where am I going with this? Is basically, I think just like that, I don't believe everything the Stoics said is kind of great, but it's a lot like religion in that aspect. No, it doesn't have to be absolute. It doesn't have to be the end all be all.
Yeah.
Like for me, like I said, I've dove into Christianity, and yeah, people are very critical of Christianity and very critical, and rightfully so. There's a lot of weird thought processes or not practicing anything of what you preach. I mean, if people actually practiced what they preached and didn't interpret certain lines to mean what they wanted or what their church wanted as this, this kind of ego play, it's pretty damn good, man. Treat people like you care. Treat people with love.
Yeah.
Don't do these bad
That can't be the only
things.
religion that offer that. Remember, that
No,
still
that's
goes back
the
to my
point.
social norm
It's
thing.
not.
It's like people around the world kind of, hopefully, have kind of similar values, and that could stem from tribe shit where you're going to see these people every day. You should probably be nice to them. Don't steal from them. Don't mess with their spouses or whatever it may be. I think that's a human thing. And
what I completely disagree with that.
Why is that?
I don't get how that's human. That's not human.
Humans that have to survive in more of a colony.
But
which is where
true,
I think the religion started coming in.
But for the last thousands of years.
That's like Strauss's argument. Is like we had to have religion at certain times to be able to survive and not fucking steal everybody's thing and let the ego take over and like, there's your cattle, I'm going to grab it.
But what's different about our world today?
Oh, man. I think the technology, the lifespan, the ways that...
But we're still... we're really... Yeah, we're smart. Like we can look something up and find history, but we're doing the same problems.
So yeah, we still have farmers, we still have leaders, we still have
again
politicians, tribe leaders, whatever you want to call it.
But we still have people that can't, figure things out, and we still have people that oppress and hurt, and it has nothing.
100%.
And it's like, again, I don't know. I don't think, at the end of the day, though, I don't think everyone should just pop out and be one religion or this.
That'd be hard. That's tricky because then you still see the bad coming out of every religion. Even in today's news, you'll still see the
because
bad, right?
people are bad.
It's because people. So then that goes back to my argument is like, think about an operating system, right? Think about Terrence McKenna's, there's a really cool video that somebody made online. I can't give him credit. I don't remember the name, but Terrence McKenna Operating System Society. Just Google it. It's fucking awesome. But he basically just talks about you're born into an operating system, and when you do whatever you want to do to upgrade it or change the software, that's when you start thinking different. But my whole thing is, what if you did take a religion out of everybody today? What if 7.2 billion people on this planet fucking got religion or anything they've ever read about religion just taken out, and you go back to what you're talking about of being human? That's where my argument comes in is a lot of good philosophy I've read. We deal with the human condition. That's the word that you call it. It's the fucking...
It's a lot what we talk about on this podcast.
It is, and it's confusing because when you do get to the hill climbing time, the human condition starts to change because your responsibilities start to change. But the way I looked at it in my early 20s to now is completely different. And the way that I think people can't handle that emptiness. If you unplugged all their shit that they learned and now they're just, here I'm a human, I need to eat, I need to shit, I need to mate at one point, people want to kill me, things want to kill me, nature wants to kill me. What the fuck does that mean to people? You know what I mean? Yeah. That's where I get confused with spirituality because I love going into that world. I love detaching and like you said, I love stepping back from the religion and looking at people and just, when I was looking at these monks, I just observed. I go into church and observe people, not the beautiness and the highness that needs to show you that I'm bigger than you or there's more bigger things in life. But it's just that human condition that we can't escape. And that's why people do turn to drugs and certain things because there's boredom, right? There's boredom when you're not involved in CrossFit or NFL Sundays. I think the
attitude, though, is the best attitude.
So does people,
is gratitude. And that sounds cheesy, and it is, and it's
pass it on.
Gratitude. Yeah. This has been brought to you by.
Those are cool though. Who fucking funds those? Who funds those?
Probably some
happiness.
Large...
Pass it on.
Yeah.
Little Jimmy hurt his knee. I'll pick you up.
Yeah.
But in a way that
friendship
that could come from the Bible. That's a good message to pass along. Where the fuck does that come from?
But see, that's the interesting thing to me. And trust me, I love space. I love the universe.
You were just thinking about that heavy last week,
man,
right?
Dude,
we do need to talk about that because that's spirituality.
It blew my
science spirituality.
But it kind of goes into my thing is
yeah.
I think people, and I get it, but I think a lot of people that are on one side, science or atheism or whatever, are completely judging a book by its cover.
For sure.
They're saying, "Oh, you idiots didn't know that the Earth is." Billions years old, like you right? But there's there's morons today that still believe. God. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you idiots didn't know that your life lessons and your God must be completely fake.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is I mean, this is what blew my mind. You could go, wow, we know so much about the universe, and I'm sure scientists are going to kill me for this, but prove it to me. Not prove it to me, show me it.
Yeah.
We know very little. And actually, this is what really blew my fucking mind. I don't know if we'll ever know a lot
Not in our lifetime.
about the. I don't know if any lifetime. If you look at the math behind it, the things, how many light years away.
But we're getting. I mean, dude, we've touched another planet, which is fucking awesome. If that blows my mind.
But it's
a human shot up in a fucking monkey mobile and went up into space.
It's very
Still
true.
had to do monkey shit in space, whether it was shit, piss.
But if you look at how far that is compared to the next even understandable thing,
it's gnarly.
Yeah, we got a long way to go.
Well, though that's why this is interesting about spirituality and science. When I talked about this before, where they talked about quantum physics being the next religion, you can't prove it yet. You think it's there. You try to describe it, but in reality, you're obsessed. Like scientists are obsessed with it.
But
fourth
see, this is the
dimension,
thing I
all
never
that
understood.
shit.
I don't get how any of that disproves any of the religions.
I don't know either. And so
that's what I don't understand. Like, but you know where this argument and battle comes in? It comes in from both sides because, I just said, science says you guys are idiots. You don't know what you're talking about, and they say, well,
faith
God's gonna. You gotta have faith, and God's gonna strike you down. You're an asshole. You know, you're not listening to our high power God. And the reality of it is we are humans in this very weird situation. And everything, but even situation. I agree with the condition, but I'm just taking it here. Well, that is what blew my mind when I was looking up habitable planets.
There's like 100 million now. It's ridiculous.
And then I was looking up galaxies. And if you really want to fuck with your head, look up galaxies.
Yeah,
just look up galaxies, and then look up what is known of the universe.
Yeah,
and then understand that. We know nothing.
But we're learning every day, which is amazing.
Absolutely, but we still know. We'd all have to make that our focus.
Yeah.
And that's what was really interesting to me about it is it's just like I don't think there's proof besides the truth. And I think this is actually what Jordan Peterson is saying. Yes, there's scientific truth. There's a lot of scientific truth. But to deny that there's any human truth in a lot of religions is crazy.
He's cool. I mean, look at his. Congrats to him on getting 2 years of funding in a fucking week. But he's interesting. Look up what he's going to be studying the next 2 years, and he's not getting any money. It's all for his studies, and it's pretty cool because it's a lot of it's related to human touch and stuff like that, and just kind of social stuff. But it's really interesting when people get into things. So like I look at Joe Rogan as it's very funny because he is now fascinated with nature. Everything he posts is nature. An alligator killing a thing to, like somebody chiseling out this ice thing that had a fish eating another fish, or him shooting a thing. Like, he is a city guy that is now being engulfed by nature. He only hangs out with people in nature, whether it's fucking spear or what's that called? Bow hunting, which is awesome. And I loved his thing last year when he talked about he wanted in 2017 to have his whole family eating stuff that he hunts, which is brilliant. I love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
But he's obsessed with it in a religious form, in an idealistic form. He's obsessed with the beauty of nature. And the weird thing is that gets me, as he turned 50, and this is what happened. He's smart enough to where he's not. I don't want to say weed smart, but he's a very well-read dude.
He's a smart guy.
He's a very smart guy. And he hit this point where now this is his new religion. And it's very interesting to me that it's like at this certain age, he could have reverted, or maybe he'll revert later, but this is what gets me is age, man. I don't understand it. Why we go in and out. Like, why some people are fucking full-blown Scientologists, and then they hit this point where now they're not. Or people in Mormonism, now they're not. Christianity, now it's like, what makes people change? What made you flip?
Not Christianity. Yeah, Christian. I mean,
it's so weird.
I don't know if that ever happens with the people in Scientology.
Oh, God, that's poor people, man.
That's a fucked up thing.
Cool, but you know what I mean? Like, why does it have to be trauma that makes this change? Or my friend going overseas and coming back change?
I don't think it has to be trauma. I think it can be perspective. And I think that's what's so. That is what I've taken from spirituality.
Yeah. And
I don't know where that's going to be in the next 2 years or 3 years or 10. But what's interesting to me is no matter who you are, people have problems.
Yes.
No matter what. And I think we classify these as psychological problems, mental disorders, PTSD. And yeah, those are all things that do affect in their experiences in people's lives that affect them.
Yeah.
But even just the simple problem, sadness,
grief.
Love, grief, sorrow, whatever the emotional word is, and I think, and then looking at the universe, and then looking at this world,
it's crazy, man.
Just kind of go, okay, man, like what is gonna work for what makes sense? Like, if you want to pray to a God, pray to a God. If you wanna, if you wanna. Say there's nothing, then say there's nothing.
But that means you're still filling that void with something, whether it's saying there's nothing. So why do we always have to fill it?
But see, that's because that's kind of the thing. Is
so we are an operating
it's
system,
a large
right?
unanswered
it's
question.
Our brain.
I mean, like I said, someone could tell you how to find, if you had a choice, and I'm sure a lot of people would take this choice. I'll teach you how to be a millionaire. I'll teach you the interworkings of the world.
Oh my God, that's the Indiana Jones 5 one.
Well, most people would, I think.
His head exploded with it.
Well, most people would say, "Oh, I'll take $1 million." That's the thing is, we're these weird creatures that kind of do things, and I think sometimes trauma puts something into perspective. Now, that sounds like all righteous. No, it puts it into perspective for that person. Just like experiences. It might not even be something traumatic. It might be something, hey, I got to change what I'm doing. Puts it into perspective for that person.
Yeah.
So to me, religion, even, throw atheism in there. It's all a perspective of life. And you do have to wonder, I mean, that's one of the biggest things is why do atheists organize? Like, what are you organizing?
It's like a science conference, or it's just like
no, but
other people trying to shit on
there's there's real atheism things.
And then what's the religion that lets other people do their own thing? I always want to say it sounds like Presbyterian, but it's not.
No,
it's,
definitely
that's like the fish thing, right? Where you only eat fish, but there's something where you
no Presbyterian is a type of religion.
No, so
you're thinking like a pescatarian.
Pescatarian. That's fish, right?
That's like a form of veganism or something.
So Presbyterian is where you let other people just
Presbyterian is a type of, I believe, a type of Christianity.
What is the one where you fucking you let other people believe in what they want and you don't care?
Non-denominational, probably. No, because non-denominational is probably more Christian. They're just not.
There's so many fucking
like. Have you ever
religions.
heard of? You ever heard of? There's a church here called Mile High Church. What is that guy's name? He's got a Eckhart Tolle.
I don't know who's that.
Dung. You never heard The Power of Now? You've never heard of that book?
No, it is a Christian thing.
What is?
Presbyterian church is...
it's a Christian. It's a form of... It's like Lutheran.
God, listen to this theology. Combination of old school and new school Presbyterianism with confessing movement, neo-Orthodox, low church, Barthian, neo-evangelical, Christian left, Christian feminism. What the... Okay, come on. This is getting ridiculous.
Well, it's just people trying to change their things.
Whatever the one where you let other people do their own thing. That's a very...
I think, I went to a church once, and I was just saying, it's here in It's called Mile High Church.
Yeah.
Very famous church.
You've never heard of it.
Eckhart Tolle. People know who Eckhart Tolle is.
Did he write the Goblin or the...
he wrote The Power...
Lord of the Rings?
No. Dude, he's got...
Sounds like
he
it.
talks like that or something.
So he's like Deepak?
But no. He's The Power of Now is a very big book. I mean,
I have heard.
And it's not religious.
Yeah.
It's like...
It's the power of...
It's about being present.
That's beautiful,
But they... when you go to this church, there's a picture of Jesus. There's a picture of Buddha.
Nice.
There's like everything you could ever... And it's about like meditation and
so that's bringing you out
centering yourself.
But that's bringing that human condition back to something more in nature, right? Like you can only be in your own environment wherever you're at, and even if you bring yourself down, granted you can meditate and go out into space or whatever people do, but getting people focused to here and now is more of a natural thing, because like what is more important than survival and nature is being fucking aware of your surroundings, correct?
But I think every religion somewhat teaches that. Like I said, though, it's weird because I don't look at this any differently than I like, the Buffalo Bills. You like the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you like them? Well, my dad liked them, and I understood this. It's kind of this diehard
passed down
religion. It's passed down thing.
That's so weird.
But it doesn't make it wrong or right. Yeah. It's just like, why do people believe in Christianity? Well, fundamentally, they should believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ. Period.
Yeah.
You can still be skeptical of a lot of the things in Christianity and be Christian.
You know who's
cool?
cool?
Same thing with Buddhism. You could go, really don't think that's that great. It's just like, with your team or with whatever. Sorry, you were saying something?
Oh, no. Just, I've been listening to a lot of Junkin Trustle's Family Hour podcast, and he's very much like you in a sense where he does like a lot. He can fucking verse something out of the Bible out of nowhere that relates.
What's that thing? The
Oh, he's a Krishna guy, like a Bhagavan or
no Haga. I don't know.
Bhagdavan or something.
Something like that.
Yeah, but he's very much into that, which is gnarly. I remember a guy on my campus one time gave me a book, and I looked at it for 2 seconds. And I was like, no thanks. It was fucking gnarly.
You want to go to a meeting on Tuesday night?
No. But it was just weird. It was the page I opened to was karma, and it was a fucking a man looking up like this in a goat's outfit, and a head was a man, and the goat in a man's outfit, and then getting his head chopped off. Just talking about karma and eating meat and overeating and stuff like that. So I saw a lot of good in that because we do overconsume in this country, and it was just, I just said no thanks. But either way, like he can drop a lot of Christianity or Jesus thing or whatever it may be, but then tie it into his religion, and that's what I don't want to say. We should all be accepting of everything, but why can't we just? Why do we have to fight about it? Like, why can't we all just get along?
Because that's fundamentalism.
Yes.
Because without my way,
yeah,
it's almost like this. I see this with my son, and this is like something that every parent goes through. Is like,
sure,
holy shit, I just sounded like my dad. Because I know what he's doing.
Was that a quote? Or
no. Yeah, I should finish the thought. Every parent says at one point in their life, I'm sounding like my parent.
Okay. Gotcha.
And it's because sometimes my son does something and I go, I know how that's going to end. And you can't get it through. And I think people in religions, no matter what it is, they feel, I know how it's going to be for your soul, your heart, or whatever. And I do think, I think that's absolutely wrong. I think that's terribly wrong. Just like it is wrong to sit there and be a helicopter parent for your kid and go, don't turn here. No, I mean, you got to protect him from the big. You got to protect him from the big things and the things that. But guess what? He's going to do it. He's going. Because
he's got human drive.
If I say no, he's going to do it even more. He's going to look me right in the face and be like, "Okay." And that is an interesting thing. And that's to me religion in a nutshell. Why can't we agree? Because we all think we're right.
So there it is. So it's like with spirituality, when you start climbing the hill, you realize you do have to. You have family and other things to deal with. Where do you start? Where do you get it from now? What makes you continue on with what you're doing? Because I think at this point, the Kerouac thing, the Buddhist thing, he was so into Buddhism in this fun and kind of trippy world, and now just he drifted back into this old school, like, I don't know, man. I think the big things in life still hit people no matter what you are. The deaths, the births, right? The fucking hospitals, whatever it may be. There's so much literature in that because that's all we do. We either write about love, death, tragedy, or nature. That's the big three things we write about. And nature could be your, whatever your environment.
But information without execution is useless.
Mm-hmm.
And execution without information is useless on a lot of levels. And that's the thing with the religion. I think you know what, man? I've met some people that were 80 and it was not a thought to them. And that's okay. That's okay too. I don't know if their soul is going to be bad or if karma or, they're going to heaven or hell. I think that, and some people say, well, then doesn't that mean it's all bullshit? No, it's just like a psychedelic experience. I've heard, I think Joe said this and I love it. If it feels real
to you, he talks about the
isn't it
thing.
real?
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly.
And that's somewhat true. Is now
when if
it feels real and I'm forcing Wallace to do it, now that's a problem.
That's
but
a
if
friend.
Well, psychedelics is a good friend. But with other things, with life decisions, just like I can't tell you how to do your relationship or parent your kids or love your wife or love your friend. No one can tell you how to do those things. I mean, you could get information, but you still got to execute it.
Then you can get the bad information.
And you can get bad information.
Like that's where we have this weird part of spirituality that people tend to just go into their groups, whether it's the CrossFits, whether it's the fucking NFL Sunday people, whether it's the Christians, whatever, the Buddhists. You do gravitate towards other people that are like you. That's the tribal aspect. But where I'm going with this is, once again, I like to pull out from that, detach anything, and go back into the human condition, which is the hardest part. And I think I myself would start to realize the more Joe Rogan aspects where I'm appreciating more just my surroundings. So my morning, hearing the snow drip off with the sun and the trees, and that to me was almost like a mindful getting into the what's that guy's book? The Moment Now?
The Power of Now.
Power of Now.
Never read it.
I agree with that title, at least. It's huge. It's huge to kind of be in meditative form, and you look at humans. My friend was talking to me while we were snowboarding, and he's telling me he went on a badass retreat, and it was called like yoga, surf, and beer or something like that, and it was all about like yoga 3 times a day, surfing or snowboarding, whatever environment you're at, and then you do have nice meals at night. But the idea is for throwing out all that unnatural energy in nature and bringing yourself back to the now.
But that's the thing that's interesting, and that
is a very interesting concept.
Because I certainly, it is a struggle to do it the way I've done it. I honestly
do what?
Never have anything, oppose everything, and then try to break down any barrier. Yeah. I've had to be in a lot of uncomfortable situations.
Sounds like a personal problem.
Well, I wouldn't want that. I would, do I want to teach my son? That's the real question for me.
It's interesting.
Do I want to teach him all the myths of or the things that I don't technically believe? Well, I also don't want to guide him in a way just because I don't believe in something.
Yeah.
But what I want to teach him is the truth of that it seems at least true to me. That's not harmful to others, right? Like I do think. Listen, if you approach everything with love, which sounds so cheesy and corny, it's real hard to get into a fight. It's real hard to, when the guy cuts you off, fuck you. No, you know what, man? Yeah, that guy, he's kind of a douchebag, what he did. But guess what? He might be in a hurry. He might have lost his wife last night. He might have lost his job. His wife's cheating on him and she hates him, or he's in a bad situation. He's making $10 an hour and hates his damn life. I don't know.
Yeah.
But is that enough to affect me? Like, well, that's human truth. So if I come out with love, and this sounds real
where
cheesy,
but where are you getting that from, though? What turned you around to that? Because a lot of people, like you said, still do bad in 2017.
Because they're human. Here's the interesting thing, though. I know that. Just as I just said it, I don't fucking do that every day. That's another thing I think that is bullshit about religion. Well, no, I do.
There's people who dedicate their life,
just
so
like
you're right.
Well, just like yeah, but dedication of your life doesn't mean like a mastery on all levels.
Like the monks we saw.
Or like the military thing that we talked about.
Yeah.
The best thing to be was tough, physically fit, smart with what you needed to be smart with.
Survive that
and God forbid if you ever showed someone a weak moment. You didn't lay into someone. You didn't yell at someone. You didn't take
they're changing that now. Like I know my friend told me they're doing even like transgender training next year for the Navy.
Holy.
Isn't it gnarly?
Fuck.
You have a lot of things that are changing mentally. PTSD. Look at the people that are coming back there.
You blew my mind. Hang on a second. We cannot.
I'm being very serious. Like he told me about it. He told me about it. And this is the Navy branch. So
Chesty Puller is turning over in his grave, and you don't know who that is, but he's a famous Marine Corps general.
Is he?
Who's
our guy now? Who's our dude?
Mattis?
Is that the guy that's
Secretary of Defense?
I know nothing about politics, clearly.
Well, General Mattis, yeah. He's a badass too.
Yeah, he seems cool. I don't know. I laugh because it's almost like we're waking up to the reality of the people aspect that you keep talking about, the human part,
absolutely,
and the brains and the issues that can come, and it's fucking hard. It's fucking hard. I think no matter what, you have to fill in your brain with something. That's what I think. You have to fill in with good because the human condition
and it can't be
scary.
But see, that's what I love Stoic behavior. It can't be too much pleasure.
There you go. You should have a balance, right?
And they kind of explain is the wealthy man
too much pleasure?
It's really interesting, and it's more. Trust me, it's more than that. But that's the thing that I really like. Wow, that's pretty interesting because everyone seeks pleasure, right? Like look at food, money, success, validation.
Well, food is fucking survival need, right?
But it's not at the phase we live today in America. I mean, it's fucking pleasure.
We're different.
Like why do you get a cheeseburger when you can have a salad? Well, it's like they're both going to keep you alive, and one's actually going to keep you alive probably longer and healthier.
7 to 10 years.
But you know what, man? That mouth pleasure for that fucking 5 minutes.
But that's still natural because you get the mouth pleasure. It's embedded in your.
But
taste
you can get a
buds,
mouth.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, and we're getting a little off the thing.
Food is spiritual.
But that's the thing is what it's like. pleasures are. It's not saying they're bad. See, that's where I think religion does make a mistake, right?
Where?
Because, for example, you use the example of a pastor at a church. I think that's bullshit too, and I think it's wrong. But I think it's so.
They go to school and they interview, and
but I think it's so natural.
What part?
He rose.
Oh,
he rose the ladder, and he probably had genuine. Whoever the pastor is, whatever that took money or priest or he rose, probably on genuine terms. Because
it's like a politician. Right?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
He got
started.
I'm going to run to save this little town, and then it turns into I'm going to change this state, and then it turns into
give me?
and then it turns into I need to raise $1 billion, and I'll do it. You start shaking hands with people. So I think that that's the human condition, and the thing I was going to say before, about specifically religion, just some of the things that I've taken out of it that are negative. No masturbation, no sex. Personally, I think that message is distorted. I think it's distorted to control. I think the real message is those things are pleasure and they're great, but they can fuck you up. They can mess you up heavily. Mm-hmm. They can make you do terrible, terrible things, which no religion in that. That's not coming from any sort of religious ideology. That's fact. You could fuck your life up with sex. You could fuck your life up with greed. An ego,
cars, or
whatever it is, and I think that turned into never do these things, and that's pleasure is good, but pleasure has to be managed.
Well, so it's like the Ari Shafir thing where he talks about Judaism having, no, they don't eat ham because at one point in time that was probably shitty ham and it was diseased and you shouldn't have eaten it, and it became never eat this, and it's still to this day never eat this.
But that doesn't make everything that they're saying wrong. Yeah. Now that's a weird what's the word? That's a weird
comparison analogy.
No. Because I think it's a good analogy. Yeah. It's a ritual. Right, just like the body of Christ. That
they do gluten free now.
Also offering no carbs. but it's a ritual, and it seems silly.
Yeah,
I don't think it harms anyone. Jews don't eat ham. It doesn't harm anyone, but it also is used as a heavy critique, and I think the reality of it is, if you look at some of the things that are in the Bible, the Quran, they're talking about a lot of things that could drive your human condition into a bad way. The problem is they're telling you don't do it, and if you do it, you're a bad person. And that's the reality. Is if you abuse it, you are a bad person. I think no religion can says that. It's like, well, no, it's okay to have sex. It's okay to masturbate. It's okay to be greedy at times as long as you catch it and realize it.
So what do you do when you hit 30, you have the kids, you have the marriage, you're getting a home, you're settling down, so to speak.
You run really far away. I'm just kidding.
What do you do with spirituality, though? How do you continue to climb the hill and have the same motivations as you had when you were, 23, San Diego, not questioning, saying that 1% of his fuck this guy's bullshit. Like, what changes in us now? How does anybody listening that's hill climbing
I think something else
to grow? Because I agree with you. I think you have to have something to keep you growing. You should.
You also have to have an open mind, which is again cheesy.
Harder. No, but that's what you're teaching
been
your
brought
son.
to you by.
That's what you're teaching your son, as far as if you approach everything with love, open mind, acceptance, all that good stuff, which is what the military is trying to do with accepting and learning. I can't believe you have to have a fucking training on whatever other accepting.
Well, let me tell you, if you were in the military, you would completely understand that.
20 years ago, different than even fucking 5 years ago. But it's just like everything was. Just look at our work environment with women and how pay grades and all that shit.
And a lot of that's great.
And that's what I'm saying is, but in spirituality, if everything else is changing around us, how do you continue to change with something that's been around for 10,000 years or whatever religion, philosophy?
Gary Vaynerchuk, or whatever the hell you say his name. This guy's awesome. I've been listening to his podcast. He seems a little like a lot at first. You're like, holy shit, this guy. Yeah. What is he, a know-it-all? Which I think anyone that's speaking, I mean, I'm sure we sound like know-it-alls too sometimes, but we're just talking. And so this guy, he said something, the biggest thing I could give someone isn't an idea. It isn't like a business thing. He's like, because he's a businessman, by the way.
Yeah.
So he's talking in the realm of business. But he says it's self-awareness.
So it goes back to that.
Yeah,
the
he
power
said
of
if you
now.
have self-awareness, you that is by far the biggest skill you can kind of have is self-awareness. And I completely agree with that. So how does it change? It like I thought about this question. Well, if we found aliens, does that change everything we know about God?
100%.
I don't know. Maybe the A B C D E F G level of God is Adam and Eve, but
Well, I
how
guess
does
you're
it
right.
mean that there's not a creator?
I don't think it would, because look at like Bill Hicks, going back to him. There's another funny thing he has about fundamentalist Christians and the dinosaurs, and they're always like, well, God put it here to test us, and the more that science finds out like how old things are, and it wasn't just 7,000 years or whatever, they still believe. You know what I mean? Like the whole premise of what the South Park guys did, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, for the Book of Mormon is fucking hilarious, because there's one of the huge songs in the Broadway show is "I Believe," and it's like all these. I don't want to ruin it, but there's just all these funny things, and he's just like, "Well, I'm just a Mormon. I just believe." Like that's a funny part of the movie, or sorry, the show, and the sad truth of it, because like that could be as a Scientologist thing, like all this stuff coming out.
See,
now,
that's an absolute.
There it is. So it's like I believe. It's gnarly, man. It's
but it's not. It's okay to be Mormon. It's okay to say, you know
those people
what?
are the nicest people ever.
Absolutely, and it's okay to say I believe in Jesus Christ. I even think He's Lord and Savior. I think whatever you feel, it
doesn't matter. Yeah, you're
it's
right. You're
okay.
Right. Yeah.
But it's not okay to say that because I believe this, you're an asshole, or because I believe this,
Yeah.
there is no other
Where did
answer.
they say
Because
this
to me,
from?
honestly, if we
So
found life on another planet,
What do you think would happen? Like if
I think there'd be serious chaos.
so, do you think that
on
would
a
come
level.
back to the human condition? Like what are we doing here? Like where did we come from?
But I think it should. And I also don't think it. Truthfully,
need
if you look at the
shakeups?
universe, this is what scared me a little bit more.
Yeah,
And I know
a
you
couple
don't
days
believe
ago.
this.
What?
I don't think you believe in a God or a create.
Me?
I think if you look at the universe, it just cannot be a mistake. It can't be this thing that happened. Now that doesn't mean that there's a guy in the clouds with a beard and he's white and he's got
color is his skin?
Yeah. He's black, he's white, he's Asian. It depends on who you are. No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that when I looked at the universe, that's actually what scared me. It was just like, and I'm never gonna know.
Well,
Like,
here,
that's what
this is what
bothered
you
me.
brought it up, and this is what I believe in. Is you brought it up about the universe being so much more complex than our brains can even process. With
Understand.
mathematical equations and stuff like that. But look at nature. You look at once again how a flower blooms, and how like when people do psychedelics and they have geometrical patterns. That's just nature, fucking. In its form.
Well, the thing I don't like about nature is when people generally, not that I don't like about nature, but people generally say nature, they're kind of just saying that
they're giving a
it's
blanket.
it's a planet
Yeah.
that did this, and it harbors life.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
like,
when you tap into that life and whatever you're doing, it's kind of gnarly.
but it's
the beehive gnarliness.
it's also crazy that like
You're thinking about the other beehives. Remember, what's that thing you always bring up? Where you think about him, he's driving, and
sondering.
yeah, it's
Dude, I don't even want to think about that.
No, but
it's too
like,
late at
it's
night
just-
to think about sondering.
I
I'll
don't know,
be up
just-
till 1.
spirituality at 30. Once again, is just a trip, because I feel like mine's changed. I hit this wall, and the wall was removing myself from everything that I've ever seen, learned, saw, and you go into Notre Dame in Paris versus going into a Mormon place, wherever you're at, and I just was like, why are people doing this? And not in a like cynical way, but just like very interested in what people like you would say, priest, don't give me a fucking reading. Tell me what you, as a human,
Tell me your human understanding.
That's what I like, but then you're getting almost to the point of being a Sam Harris or someone else, because you are getting into the science and the knowledge.
The
of
thing
why
is, though,
they do
is
these things.
even scientists are absolute. Like, that's my big word.
Well,
No, and they call it the God condition. Well, everything we don't know is God. But again, you're talking about
interesting.
like one of the things. This is too, and we got to wrap this up here. But this interested me.
Yeah.
We say these habitable planets. What happens is if there's a planet out there that isn't habitable the way we know. like what if on that planet Mercury is what people are made out of? Or say people. See, that's my point. Yeah. That's that human thing. Like, well, we are this. Like, and I think that's the same thing is like, well, when scientists are looking at God, they're looking at, a guy. They're not because they're looking.
We humanize everything. Right?
Well, yeah, it's a guy in a beard. No, what? Explain it. Oh, it was just a big. It was
atoms here. Who knows?
It was a big accident. Like, real. Like that's it. This whole fucking thing's an accident, and we came from monkeys, and we just that's it. We're on a ball.
It's weird.
I don't know, man. I don't fully buy that. Because I think there's energy. I think there. You talked a lot about that. There is energy, and that's my thing. And how do people do this? I think what I tried to do, and maybe in 5 years it'll be different. And like I said, man, it's fucking hard.
Do you call that universal energy?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's not.
But we've had this argument, and we'll wrap it with this. I do think things happen for a reason.
Oof.
No.
I just don't.
And I don't mean that as magical puts people together and it's like ding, there's like a little fairy that goes around and taps
right
people.
There. I think that's an absolute. Because then you could be like, it just didn't
no, because
work out. It wasn't meant to be.
Here's the thing.
It wasn't meant to be.
No.
I fucking hate that.
I think that is true on some level if you even go down deep. And here's why.
But that's just an is what it is type of comment.
It's not an absolute. Let me explain this.
Yeah.
Because I think there are choices in life. And I think we constantly think that things like we always think we do things. Like that's where this whole idea came up from. It's like, oh well, this didn't happen for a reason. It's because I worked hard or did something. Well, that's not always true because I think certain times you can have a really good idea, but execution sucks. So if you executed properly, and sometimes you can execute perfectly, and it fails, and maybe it was because you were meant to do something else, and I think that's the word people have problems with is meant, like it's magic. I'm not saying in a magic thing. I'm saying you physically possibly couldn't do it.
But I think the magic is interesting because if you remember the Rogan cast with Dan Auerbach, the guy from the Black Keys.
Yeah, a long time ago.
He kept using the word magic. He just kept going Rogan kept trying to get in his head about the energy, the music, and there's a flow to it. There's chemistry. That shit is real. And he just kept going like, I don't know, man. Like sometimes you just make this magic. And use it. I think energy is a real thing. Whether it's the atoms moving around, and you talk about trauma, when an atom hits another atom and it falls or goes somewhere else, if it doesn't have the support cast to get back to where it's going, it is isolated. And in the body, when something's isolated, it's bad. We're very good at groups. This energy comes in groups. What happens when you go to a Tony Robbins thing? It's the energy. You feel that fucking thing. It's coming through you. That's where spirituality, I think, where I'm going with it now, is just trying to find the good energy, approaching things with the positivity.
But the good energy is happening for a reason.
Because
like that's
you're changing it, right?
Yes.
Your atom is now positive.
But not only
you.
Yeah. Like think about falling in love. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of women that I'm sure you thought you were in love with. Every person has had that, and girls, guys.
It's all over our movies and shit too.
Well,
right?
yeah, But because it's a human behavior.
It's the one,
and it's like doing something. Like I thought I used to. Like Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah. Mark Zuckerberg. Is this guy a genius? Yeah, on some level. But he also got lucky. And things happened exactly the way they needed to happen.
Or the CIA paid him $1 million to get everybody's information.
Could be too.
Online.
But like you look just Mark Zuckerberg is probably a weird example, but just
no, I see
and some people I'm not saying you don't make your own
aligned, so to speak.
You don't
right?
make your own behavior either. I'm not saying that. But because you certainly do make your own. You can't be sitting in your parents' basement and then be like, I'm going to be a millionaire, or I'm going to be this. And that's where I think things happen for a reason. Like when something bad happens, I don't know. Every single time in my life, something
when it
bad
rains and pours.
No, not only when something bad has happened in a few years, it actually turned out that wasn't that bad. And
that could be perception back to the religion thing.
Bing. That's my point of why things, to me, somewhat happened for a reason, is perception. And I get it, that's kind of a weird... Well, it's kind of
it's blowing my mind.
Well, it's kind of a weird thing, but it's like, you'd have to understand the conversation that me and you had about it because I don't think you do everything, and I think sometimes there's just shit that happens, and it might be energy. You might feel good at this place. You might feel good with this person. Well, you also felt good with that other person, but then you find out she was a whore. So, like, wow, thank God that didn't fucking happen.
Sure.
And
you
sometimes
see them later and in their train wrecks, you're like, oh, I dodged a bullet on that one.
Well, and
right?
I think that's also why people change later. Like Joe got
Full
into this
nature now.
Yeah. Or people all of a sudden are like 40, have 4 kids, and are like, you know what, honey?
I'm
gay.
Go back to art school.
Or I'm gay.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Yeah.
Where did that happen?
But careers are even huge.
It's all. I mean, we got off topic there, and I just had to get that little last rant out. But I think it's time to wrap it up. You know, it's been a good podcast. I think this might be another
always an ongoing.
Yeah, this might be
part two
possibly on this because I think it's such an interesting thing of how you do something and how you work, and there is no answer. It's experience. So I don't know if you got anything.
No, as always, Twitter, Facebook, or no Facebook. We're not on that shit. Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, comments, follow us, iTunes, like us. That's all I got. It's Wallace.
So this has been Between X and Z. I am Dozer.
This is Wallace.
See you guys next time.
Yes.
Bye-bye.